Welcome to the President's Desk on 96.9 FM, KGPC, and Peralta Television, where Laney College President Dr. Rudy Besikoff speaks with community members, colleagues, and student leaders. This program is supported by Technical Director Felicia Bridges, who co-hosts along with Laney College journalism major Randy Cross and President Dr. Rudy Besikoff.
Pull up a chair and join me and Felicia today at the President's Desk. The Laney College Puente program is the topic on the table today, and we are pleased to welcome Laney College counselor Laura Gomez-Contreras, as well as English faculty professor Christian Gonzalez Reyes to the program. In and around our guests, we will be checking in on student life and also putting the spotlight, as always, on our Partners of Laney feature and to discuss a special scholarship for our students. As always, the program airs at 2 a.m. and 2 p.m. on FM 96.9 KGPC, or you can stream it at kgpc969.org. Also, anytime you log on to kgpc969.org, you can listen live to a lot of great programming. And if you can't join us at 2 a.m. or 2 p.m., you can always stream our show anytime. Also, to our listeners, we're pleased to share that, as always, we're available to be heard on Apple Podcasts and iHeartRadio. Want to get in touch with the program or want to interact with us? Email us, as always, at laneypodcast@peralta.edu. You can also like us on Facebook at Laney College President's Desk Podcast, or follow us on Instagram and Twitter at Laney Podcast. Also, YouTubers, you can find select interviews and content available as always, and we welcome subscriptions to the Laney College President's Desk channel. This is Rudy Besikoff, proud president of Laney College, a pillar that has been serving the greater Oakland community since 1927 and has been known as Laney now for more than 66 years, and where once again spring is free. Like so many things with the president's office, my work is the result of a great team. In addition to my all-star co-host, Felicia, very pleased to have Colin helping us out at the controls today. Arlene Lontok, we always appreciate her for booking guests for the show. And then Raya Zion always checks in and contributes for the Laney's Partners of Laney feature. And as always, Raya Zion checks in and contributes for our Partners of Laney feature. But getting things kicked off today is my co-host, Felicia Bridges. And Felicia, I don't know if you noticed, I brought a special guest to the studio, my venti iced coffee.
Right. I'm jealous.
So what's your caffeine drink of choice? I know we kind of have this is like a long running conversation.
Yes,
but
it is.
Yeah, let me check in. What's your coffee?
I actually don't drink coffee. I don't drink anything that has caffeine in it. My nervous system doesn't like
So
it.
is it just water, or do you?
No, I have a matcha green tea latte.
Matcha green tea latte. All right. Well, you know what? I think this is a perfect segue to welcome in our guests. And I'm going to start with Laura Gomez-Contreras. Laura, coffee choice for you. What do you typically go with?
Like Felicia, I am not a coffee drinker. I start off my morning with green juice.
Oh, okay.
I juice.
So is that like celery juice or what?
Some days celery, cucumber. Some days it could be spinach, asparagus with like mango, pineapple, ginger, lemon. It's just something.
Okay, we are hitting the time of the year where the Shamrock Shake is available at McDonald's. That is green, but I take it that's not what you're talking about.
That's not my type of green.
Okay. All right. Professor Christian, how are you?
I'm doing good.
Welcome. Now, Laura's a second-time guest, and you're welcome for the first time to our program. Do you have a coffee choice, or?
Yeah, so...
Okay, good. I was so afraid I was going to be the only coffee drinker.
No.
Please share.
I usually only drink coffee in the morning, obviously, but my go-to is an Americano, 2 shots of espresso.
Oh man! So you
get
that
You're
engine
wide awake.
Yeah. So, all right. I just want to start off our conversation today. Say a community college student just walks up to you in the quad and says, "What do I need to do to be successful?" Just kind of asks you that general question. Laura, what's the first answer that comes to mind?
Well, what I tell students all the time is that commitment is very important and writing out their goals. But more importantly, I think if they have in-person classes, making sure that they show up, that they're early to class, that they sit in the front, that they take notes, and that they do all the reading that's required, that they come to class prepared. And so usually I'll kind of just give them a little spiel, but I also recommend that they take Counseling 24, which is college success strategies,
Good plug.
so that they can learn all about what it takes to be successful in college, not just in a 2-minute conversation with me, but throughout the whole semester. They can really learn some good strategies.
Christian, how about you?
Laura kind of took a lot of it. But I feel like for me, as like English instructor, I also teach Spanish. Do the reading and get some sleep. I think sleep is the most important thing to succeed in college.
That's good advice. Felicia, what, just as a student, what would, if somebody came up to you and said, what was your secret to success as a student? What would be that one thing you tell them?
The one thing, find a cohort, find study buddies.
You stole my answer. That was actually mine as well. Spend a lot of time in the cafeteria with
Right.
classmates,
Right.
go over stuff, because that's kind of the, how can I say, secret weapon of learning.
It is. It really is.
Everybody always thinks, oh, it's the instructor, but often it's the classmates. And especially as you move on in your studies, I've found that to be the case. Yeah. Okay. So I'd like to start with Christian. And again, welcome to the program. As far as your journey as a student and in terms of what you're doing now, teaching English, was there something along the way that was like a vital moment for you?
Sheesh. I think, yeah, I feel when I was an undergrad at UC San Diego, I started doing research and things like that. And that really made me want to go to grad school. Also, just not seeing a lot of people who look like me or come from the same experiences really pushed me to want to like enter education. At the time, I wasn't really sure if I wanted to do like high school or college. And it wasn't until I started teaching in my PhD program, right, when I really knew like, oh, this is what I want to teach college students.
Excellent. And what is in your PhD program? What are you focusing on right now?
Yeah, so my PhD is in comparative literature, but I focused in primarily Spanish language texts, Central America, migrations, things like that.
Wow. What would somebody, if somebody just asked you, what is it about Central American literature that's so alluring? What would you say?
Um, I don't know. What I would say is that right now, like coming out of Central America is like one of the best literatures from the best authors, mostly Central American women who are writing, who just know how to play with words and like put together stories and stuff like that.
Laura, how about you? What about your journey as a student? What's something that was really kind of a key moment that led you to becoming a counselor?
Well, I think my journey began in the early 90s when I took a break from Cal and came to Laney. Even though I was from Oakland, I had taken classes here before, but that year I started working in the EOPS department and I had a really good director that was over the program that said, you know, you can become a counselor. You need to go back to Cal and you finish up, go to grad school, be a counselor and come back and work. Told me you'd be great at it. And it took me a while before I kind of processed what he was trying to tell me. But I think that's where it kind of opened up the door to wanting to come back to my community and to counsel and serve my community.
Some of our listeners might be hearing the acronym EOPS for the first time. What is EOPS?
EOPS is Extended Opportunities Programs and Services, and it's a statewide program for economically and educationally disadvantaged students or first generation students. And it provides a wide range of support services, counseling, peer advising, book vouchers, um, assistance with financial aid. They really monitor.
So extensive.
Right. They really monitor the students' retention services.
If someone's interested in learning more about EOPS or applying, what do you recommend they do?
That they go to A106 and ask for an application and fill it out and see if they're eligible.
All right, lots of good knowledge.
I suspect that students come with you with all kinds of issues, just to try to get on their track as far as their education. Can you share with me some of the different scenarios that students come to you with?
Well, yeah, you're right. I do get a variety of students that come in with different issues. Some students come with writing deficiencies already. And so to try to get them to find the right class for them, a lot of them come with not really having a plan or the study skills that they need to be successful. So teaching them on how to develop those studying habits, basically teaching them to learn. A lot of them have come into the college without the right equipment, the right tools. So it's really like talking to them about, how do they take notes? Um, do they show up on time? Do they read the material? Do they take notes when they're reading? How do they prepare for each class? Another one is we get a lot of students that work 30, 40 hours a week and then want to take a full load. So, getting the student to kind of understand what it takes to be a student, a successful student, and how to manage that. And sometimes it's difficult for our students because it boils down to either putting food on the table or coming to class. So finding that right balance between work and the amount of units
Right.
that they take every single.
What do you think is a good ratio of work to being a student?
So if they're working 20 to 30 hours a week, I say 9 units, which most of the time translates to 3 classes. If they're only working 15 or 20 hours and then they can handle 12, and usually what I tell them is that you have to have balance. So you might have two courses that are, maybe a little bit more challenging or require more time from you, and then maybe two classes that are not as time consuming. So finding that right balance of not only just units to work, but even between classes, like finding that perfect balance. You don't want students to take, you know, chemistry, physics, and then calculus,
Right.
English class. I mean, some students can do that, especially, if they're working 5 to 10 hours, but not everybody can. So really, sitting down with the student and finding out like what are some of their own personal challenges that interfere with their academics, and then trying to craft a plan or a schedule that keeps them balanced in the semester.
How often do you find or have you found that study skills has a cultural element to it?
More often than not, I think it depends on the population you're working with.
I'll just share a story. I my junior year, I actually studied in France I was at University of Bordeaux. And the first time I was in a lecture, there were probably 200 students. Professor was lecturing, and I'd been to college for a couple of years. You sit there, professor writes something on the board that's important. Obviously, make sure you write it down and understand it. You try to summarize the lecture as it's going, key points, things that you read. As this lecture was going on, it seemed like the professor kept looking my direction. And then as it continued, he not only was looking, but he started walking over toward me, almost to the point that he was standing over me. And what I realized was, in that classroom setting, the expectation was that I constantly take notes, that I try to capture every word the professor was saying, that was kind of the classroom culture of the situation. Just curious, and Christian, I certainly invite you to respond to this as well. Have there been moments like that where maybe students you've worked with have been like, oh, this is different, or, oh, I didn't know I needed to do this?
Let's take a shot at it.
Yeah, I think a problem or not like a problem, but just because people have different ways to learn and take notes. I see some students who don't know how to take notes, right? And so while they're in class, they don't know what to write. And I can't be the person to be like, oh, like write that down, because what may be important to me might not be important to them, right? And so something I've had to do a lot of the time is during office hours, like talking about, right? Um, like what is the common ground we have in our note taking, and then going from there, what works best for you? Do you like highlighting? Do you like writing on the margins? do like researchy things before you do the reading. And so that's kind of the struggle I've seen with students, especially like post like COVID, post, I don't know, attention span where everyone can't listen for more than like 20 minutes. So it's like really hard to get students to engage, especially when it comes to their own learning, right?
Well, I would agree with Christian. I think it depends. I've worked with all segments of the population more recently with Puente students. So we're talking about students that are Latinx students, correct? And so, yeah, I think a lot of students are not really sure what to write or how much to write. Um, but I've also worked with a lot of Asian American students, and what I notice with them is that they study in groups. And that's what I always try to encourage my Puente students to do, is to study in groups, because what someone might pick up, the other person may not, or vice versa. So I always tell them, I last year I put them in geography one together with Mark Razan, and there were like 12 students. There were Puente students that were in his class. And so they all got together and they really just worked together. They all took notes, they compared notes, studied, and they found that that was a great strategy for them. And now they always look for each other to see what classes they're taking that they can take together to excel. They all got A's.
That's great. And we're so pleased to be talking with Laura Gomez-Contreras and Christian Gonzalez Reyes right here at the President's Desk on 96.9 FM KGPC. Laura, if somebody visits your house, and what is the most likely book or movie that you might take off the shelf to show them?
Well, I have like two that I think people would probably see in my house. That would be The Four Agreements and The Power of Intention.
Tell us about the Four Agreements.
The Four Agreements was written by Don Senor Ruiz, I think it is. And basically, there are four things that he says that if you follow, you can basically manifest or create the life that you want. And the very first one being don't take anything personal, always do your best. And I don't remember what the other two, but yeah, that's usually what you'll find, things like that at mine.
Excellent. Felicia, I think we have to share the Four Agreements in a future broadcast, unless you've got them.
That's a great book. Actually, I read that some years ago.
Now let's ask the English professor.
Good. You're right.
Christian, if you have us over, what's the most likely book or movie that you're going to pull off the shelf and show us?
Damn.
And we can count movies you have digitally or something.
Yeah, because I'm kind of like, I have like a whole library at home, so I'm just thinking, what would I? Maybe I'll take something off my syllabus. So this semester I'm teaching Asata's autobiography. She's a Black revolutionary who's in exile right now in Cuba. I think she's from the East Coast, but she was in Oakland for a while. I think she actually came to Laney College, if I'm not mistaken. And so I'm teaching the autobiography and like hoping that my students like resonate with it. And I don't know, it's just a book that really is very poetic and stuff. But other than that, I feel like the other book I would show is give to folks is El Asesino Melancólico by Jacinta Escudos. So she's like contemporary Salvadoran writer. And the book is just very interesting. It's like a melodramatic short novel.
How does the title translate?
The Melancholic Assassin.
Oh.
It's yeah.
Whoa.
And it's like, yeah, it's like very short. It's a novel. It's like really interesting. I don't know. Yeah.
Wow, I'm glad I asked that question. That's quite a translation. Wow. So my experience, something we share is my undergrad, I had a double major, English, French, and then my master's degree is in English, but at the university I went to, University of Colorado, the department had three areas of focus. One was literature, one was the teaching of writing, and then the third one was applied linguistics. I took option 3. Just in your pathway, it sounds like literature was your focus, but could you tell us a little more about it?
Yeah. So as an undergrad, I did a double in literatures in Spanish literature, and Latin American studies with a focus in sociology. So I focused on literature mostly. And then for my master's in comparative literature at UC Berkeley, focused in English and Spanish texts, and then the PhD is at UC Berkeley as well in comparative literature. I focus on literature, Central America, like I said, English, Spanish, and Portuguese.
Laura, how about you? What were your majors coming up?
Coming up, I was a Chicano Studies major and sociology. Then my master's was in counseling.
We have a couple sociologists in the room.
I see.
Wow. What are the benefits of, I had the double major. It sounds like you had some cross-disciplinary work where you had maybe two programs at your college kind of teaming up. What are the benefits of an experience like that?
For me, it was, I don't know, I just couldn't, well, I don't know. I just couldn't think of literature as in a vacuum. And so I was always interested in theory, history, politics, economy. So I feel like that cross fertilization, I guess you could call it, between programs really allowed me to like connect what was going on around me historically, politically, with the text I was dialoguing with in my literature major.
So it kind of brought some more contemporary context into your studies.
Yeah.
Laura, how about you?
I think for me, to major in sociology gave me that framework that I needed to do this type of work, to do the equity type of work in my community. I think the Chicano studies basically also just gave me the validation that I needed to do this work, not just working with Latinx students, but African American students, Asian American students, Native American students, and then now, just like all the different students that are coming from different countries, just developing that sensitivity and being able to work with them. So I think that's how it benefited me and what I do.
One of our big points of focus this semester at Laney has been March 15th. Students submit your petitions to get your certificate, to get your degree. So I guess I want to ask this question for a lot of our students who are getting into their fourth semester, perhaps seeing transfer around the corner. Just from your experiences as second and third year college students, what do you remember? And especially in a transfer situation, what are things to look ahead to?
I don't know if you want to start.
So, as transfer students, I think that one of the things that they want to do is to meet with the counselor regularly. I tell students, especially the ones that are not in my current cohort, so phase 3 students, Puente students, make those appointments. You should be seeing me at least twice a semester, so that by the time the applications come around, that you have everything checked off. And then as far as students that maybe will be going on in the fall, is to find your tribe, your community, and then make sure that you're using the resources at the 4-year where you're at, and make sure that you see your counselor or advisor at the 4-year. I don't think you can go wrong with.
I agree with you. That's definitely spot on.
Christian, how about you? Just second year, third year student stuff. What comes to mind?
I'm thinking for Laney students anyways, when you're thinking about transferring, like don't leave the personal statements until like last minute. Start
Good
working on them.
advice.
Yeah, start working on them the summer before your application, just so you can get at least 5 drafts in by the time you submit it. Maybe show them to, for example, like me and Lauda if we're in your corner, or someone you really trust with your writing. But other than that, I feel like getting ready to be thrown out of your bubble, because I feel like what I've heard is here at Laney, folks are over prepared. I think we have a few students that say they had to come to class regularly. So it's going to be a shock to them to see that students don't go to class when they transfer, right? There are big lecture halls where people will not show up. And I'm just kind of like, oh, y'all are making good habits right now, right?
Felicia, I got to ask our guests this question because I'm thinking, obviously our audience is students and whoever else might be listening in on the colleague front. Got to ask this question. The two of you seem like you're pretty versed in the personal statements. What advice do you give people about writing their personal statements and telling their stories? And maybe what are often things you find you're telling them to highlight that maybe they didn't think to highlight?
I'll let you go first this time.
Yeah, I feel like
And sorry for the 6-part question there, but
no,
go
no,
ahead.
no, no worries. I feel like it's a very like it's hard because I feel like a lot of people are gonna come like from similar experiences, like that are applying to these things. So I think just that one thing or that two things that make you jump out. For example, I think like a lot of people take for granted, right, that they might like, I don't know, nails, right? Like I know a lot of people who like putting on nails. I'm like, yo, that's a story that's being like it's being waiting to be told there, waiting to be told. Like talk about how your nails and your passion for nails have helped you academically thrive, right? That's thinking outside the box. And I think that's what students need to do when they're approaching these essays.
Don't know if you might be interested in this, but on the episode that will air before this one, we interviewed faculty and students from cosmetology,
Oh, cool.
and nails were among the things we discussed,
I know it was
along with
so
how my
apropos.
hair is changing colors and what I might want to do with about that. So it's pretty interesting. Laura, how about you?
Really.
Personal statement.
Personal statement. So, one of the things that I always tell students is just really think about your life, right? We have a lot of students that help their parents, they pay bills, they take care of siblings, drive them, or take them on the bus to wherever their siblings have to go. That's, an area that you can highlight because that shows responsibility, shows commitment, and it also may also tell the reader a little bit more about your own story and why do you have to help your parents out with these things or some students if they come from a single head household or they might be single head of household, it's important to tell that story and really kind of paint a picture for the reader to see what your life has been, what your journey is, and where you're kind of going, and how those experiences have prepared you for maybe some of the challenges that a 4-year will pose as you transition into a 4-year.
So you're saying that what students or applicants might see as everyday life is in fact extraordinary everyday life.
Yes.
It's amazing. Wow. Uh, as you move forward now and just look ahead in your careers and what you want to do next personally and professionally, what's ahead?
So hopefully finish this PhD. I'm in the dissertation process right now. But ultimately just be a teaching professor. I think I just want to teach, continue with the Puente program because right now I'm currently an adjunct. So I'm hopefully one day be able to come on as full time and just keep supporting the Puente program.
I'll just tell you this, having done it, your dissertation is something you will think about every day for the rest of your life, having
Yeah.
written one. Yeah. And I, at the time when my committee said you need to add a chapter, and yes, that happened. It seemed like pain and suffering, but there is not a day that goes by in my career that I don't think about some aspect of it or some guiding principle that I learned from it. And it's amazing. It's an amazing experience.
I don't know, just the idea of being called doctor one day sounds kind of cool.
There you go. Laura, how about you? What's ahead for you?
For me, well, I can want to continue to work on Puente. There are some goals that I have for the program. And I think once, I'm, you know, have reached those goals or accomplished those goals, I think I'd like to look at a PhD program, possibly in holistic studies or like holistic psychology. I'm really interested in the interface between like counseling and spirituality and wellness. And so I think I'd like to go that route maybe in the next 5 years as after my youngest finishes college, and it'll be my turn again to go back.
Felicia, Dean Inger Stark is by trade a sociologist. If we ever have her on the program, we'll need to invite these two back as well.
It sounds like it.
Definitely. But what is something about being a counselor that maybe others might not know just about the job? And because I want to just, maybe there might be some listeners today thinking, wow, I'd love to be a counselor. Or, wow, I'd love to be a professor and teach. What is something about that job, if somebody shadowed you, that might surprise them?
I think one of the things that people think all the time about counselors is that you have to be an extrovert because you're consistently talking to people, you're working with students, faculty, staff, administrators, and I'm an introvert, and people usually never believe that. So I think a counselor position is something that both an introvert or an extrovert could do and can do well.
Christian?
So hot take. It took me a while to like reading, and like I had to finish undergrad and then my master's, and it wasn't until the pandemic really when I started reading for fun or reading things I actually liked. Um, so now I'm like actually understanding why people like growing up would read. So, so people are like, "Oh, that's like such a weird thing for an English professor to say," but it's true. Like I entered the profession more so for the writing than the reading.
Listeners and viewers, just all you're seeing and hearing is part of the great experience that is the President's Desk right here on 96.9 FM KGPC. Laura, Christian, can you stick around for a little bit? I'd like to still talk to you about the Puente program if you have a
Yeah.
few minutes, but I do need to do a little business here. So I
Yeah.
want to shift right now to our Partners of Laney feature. And as always, we share opportunities both on campus or off campus related to internships, information about jobs, or job openings. So pleased to hear from Raya Zion that on March 6th, she'll be conducting the Women in Trades panel discussion for the year. And this happens every spring. And this year, she's informed me that they'll actually be focusing on women in the fields of electricity and electrical. So definitely an engaging discussion, and we'll have more information coming. One of our great partners at Laney has been the Port of Oakland. And I'm pleased to announce that they are going to be offering paid internship opportunities for Laney College students. And through our great partners with Lau Family, we had their CEO on a previous broadcast. They have partnered with BART for summer internship opportunities. And I'm also pleased to report that within our machine technology department, through a cooperative agreement with Tesla, students are continuing toward a certificate in machining. This all is amazing in terms of opportunities, listeners. And if you want more information, please give Raya Zion a call at 510-464-3530, or you can email her at rzion@peralta.edu. And speaking of opportunity, as we transition at this point in the show, I will, as always, remind listeners that Laney College provides one-time support scholarships for students who are facing unforeseen financial difficulties, that stolen laptop, the flat tire, just kind of that thing that happens during the semester that might hold you up. If you are a student who has kind of fallen on such a difficulty, we invite you to reach out to my office and contact Arlene Lontock at 510-464-3219, or you can email her at alontoc@peralta.edu. Also, to our employees and our community members, this is also a reminder that all charitable donations to Laney College are tax deductible and processed through Peralta College's foundation, which is a 501c3 nonprofit. If you have any questions about the foundation, please reach out to them at 510-587-7809 or email pf as in Frank, pfs@peralta.edu. Also, as just a quick message to employees of the Peralta Community College District, you can make donations at any time to the foundation, or for as little as a price of a cup of coffee every month, you can do a payroll deduction that is pre-tax, a pre-tax deduction. And if you have questions about that, my office can provide answers to any questions. Also, if you are someone who is considering a donation but have questions, I invite you to reach out to me at rbesikof@peralta.edu, or better yet, give me a call at 510-464-3236. Okay, so transitioning back to the second half of our program, Laura, you've provided leadership for an incredible program at Laney College called Puente. What is it?
Puente is a 2-semester comprehensive program for students that are disproportionately impacted who want to go to the 4-year, want to transfer. And so we provide 4 courses, 2 in the fall, 2 in the spring, that will help or enable students to go to the to transfer to the 4-year by completing these courses in their first year, which is English 1A in the fall, along with Counseling 24, which is College Success Strategies. And then in the spring, we transition into English 5 and Counseling 57, which is Career and Life Planning. So after a year in the program, the students will then become phase 3 students, where I still give them academic support. I still work with them on their student educational plans. I still help them troubleshoot. I still invite them to any tours that we might be having that year. So it's a really good program for students or our first generation students that want to transfer to a 4-year university.
Wow. How many students right now are Puentistas? How many are in the program?
So right now, actively in our cohort, I think we have about 19 students. In terms of phase 3 students who are still part of the program, they're just not in class with Christian. Myself, I think we have about 26 students. And this includes students from last year and the previous years that are still just getting some kind of academic support, whether it's a student educational plan for me or getting help from Christian on their personal statements or, just any counseling questions that come up or any just troubleshooting. I'm there to support them, even if they're not actively in the cohort.
Once upon a time, I remember that if I asked that question, the answer would have been 5. So it's amazing that the program continues to grow and everything kind of has its own pattern or journey when it comes to growing the program. So I congratulate you.
Thank you.
I think it's amazing. You talked a little bit about, and I want to now focus the shift to somebody coming new in the program. So Counseling 24, could you touch on it a little bit more? What's involved in the class? What can a student expect?
So it's college success strategies. So basically, what I'm teaching students in that class is how to learn, how to prepare, how to be successful. So we cover everything from all the different programs and certificates Laney has to the general transfer patterns to the 4-year. We talk about and we do exercises around time management. I've taught them about Bloom's taxonomy and what to look for and in the syllabus so that they understand what level of learning they have to be at in order to be successful, say in their English class, math, or geography. We also talk about financial planning in that class, self-esteem, learning principles, the way the mind works and how to maximize your mind. Basically, like what kinds of foods, the study habits that highly successful students have, which means like taking good notes, sitting in the front, all the different types of note taking systems that there are.
Where do I sign up? Wow.
You can sign up on, the Laney Puente webpage.
I have a question. You used a terminology. I think you said Bloom taxology.
Bloom's taxonomy. Yes. Yeah.
Taxonomy. Can you explain that?
So basically, it's different levels of learning, and there are 5 levels. And most of our students come in, they're usually at the first level, which is being able maybe to remember a concept or maybe being able to understand it. And for a lot of college classes, students do have to be at least at level 1, 2, and 3. But then by the end of the semester, you as an instructor, you want your student to be able to execute all 5 levels. So the 4th and 5th level being able to analyze, the 5th level being able to create. So when students are looking at their syllabus, they usually have the instructor will have something called student learning outcomes or exit skills, right? And there they use a lot of the verbs from Bloom's taxonomy, which are words like, and student will be able to analyze, student will be able to synthesize the material, student will create. So then, as a student, if you're taking my class and you're learning about Bloom's taxonomy, that by the end of the semester, you're not just required to understand or be able to remember concepts or be able to apply them. You have to move beyond those 3 levels, which pretty much if you're getting a high school student, they're usually at those 3 levels. By the end of the semester, the instructor is pushing the student to be able to create, to be able to synthesize, evaluate information, evaluate concepts. So that's what Bloom's taxonomy. So I teach them that's not really part of the normal Counseling 24 curriculum, but I do think it's an important skill to have to be able to look at a syllabus and understand what level of learning you have to be at, to be successful.
Christian, what about English 1A? Can you tell us about that class? Just any English student at Laney College who sees English 1A, that obviously you've got to take it. I mean, it's on the front end as far as required courses, but for someone maybe just hearing English 1A for the first time, what is it as a class? Can you tell us about it?
Yeah, so the class is reading and composition. It's first year composition, first semester composition. And so basically the way I teach it is very much about obviously writing, but I teach it through a literature and film slash cultural production way, to get people thinking about the world around them, things like that. It's writing intensive, so students just get shocked that there's so much writing, so like that writing is hard because writing is very hard. Um, and so throughout the process, I've learned that since people come from all walks of life, the point of the class is very much to get everyone to a point where they feel comfortable with their writing and their writing journey. And because of the Puente program, I tend to teach more culturally relevant text to the population. So very much Latinx literature, migrant films, things like that. Um, yeah.
What are some of the papers or projects that a student in your class would experience as part of the Puente program, taking English 1A?
Yeah. So usually the first paper I always start with is a 2-3 page diagnostic paper where I see where students are at, give them comments on it. From there, we go to a 4 to 5 page paper where they're doing more analytical skills, going beyond just summarizing and doing a book report, right? I want them to actually think. And then we culminate with a research paper. So teaching them how to look at archives, how to look through databases, and how to form research questions.
As a freshman in high school, I remember the 5-paragraph essay, and Mrs. Southers was my teacher. And she said, end of paragraph 1, you must have a thesis statement. And that thesis statement must contain either the word although or because. And so coming up through the ranks, it was the 5-paragraph essay with the thesis. So someone like me who had that muscle memory and now hearing, oh, now it's not 5 paragraphs. Now it's 5 pages, or maybe it's 10 pages. How do you teach students to well, first of all, is the 5 paragraph still out there? And secondly, how do you teach them to kind of grow their writing?
Yeah, so I don't like the 5 paragraph structure because I don't think
You know what?
Yeah.
Those of you who were on radio, you just missed the best cringe ever when I said that. Go ahead, sir.
Yeah, I was just kind of like, yeah, no, so I don't like the 5 paragraph structure. I think that's one of the worst ways to learn writing because it's very formulaic. Everyone has their own writing structure. So some quick context, right? I took remedial writing in college, so I sucked at writing because that's what I was also taught. And it wasn't until second year writing when I was like, oh shit, like I actually can write. All right, sorry if I'm cussing. like, oh no, I can write, right? And so that's what I'm trying to get students to think about, right? What do you call it? Like thinking beyond that 5 paragraph essay. So something I'm challenging them to do is in class doing timed writing, or I do these weekly Canvas assignments where they just take a moment to take a passage or a moment from the text or the film and just dissect it, right? What did they notice? What did they find interesting? What themes, tropes, or like how does this connect to them, right? Um, and honestly, it just takes practice until they unlearn that muscle memory.
Wow, good stuff. As far as just prepping your students to start writing, I know in my case, again, going back to some of what I learned, it was Roman numeral 1, Roman numeral 2, Roman numeral big letter A down to small number, down to small letter, and so on and so forth. What I found though was that I was better off when I just went into a room by myself with a pad and paper and just started free writing. That was kind of my thing. But when you teach readers or writers ways to kind of generate ideas or generate content to write, what do you teach them?
So this might sound cliche, but like I always tell people, do an outline, do an outline. And people don't understand how crucial outlines are. Some people think that, oh, an outline isn't really gonna like do much, but I've like a very detailed outline is what gets papers running, right? Or if students don't have a topic in mind that they want to write about, I tell them, okay, think about a moment in the text that you really were interested in, and just ask yourself questions like, why did this interest you? And then if that's the route they're taking, then do a free write, just to get all the ideas out on paper.
Wow, great to be talking to Christian Gonzalez Reyes, our professor, as well as Counselor Laura Gomez-Contreras, right here at the President's Desk on 96.9 FM KGPC. Laura, we've talked about the classes. What else goes on in Puente? What are some other activities, things that go on that would maybe get a student interested?
So last year we took 22 students to UCLA and UC San Diego. And I think the Laney history, I think we were the first group to take that many students on a bus to visit these universities. This year we're going to be going to San Luis Obispo, Cal Poly. We're going to be going to UC Irvine and Long Beach and possibly UC Santa Cruz. That's still in the works, maybe.
Amazing. That sounds like a
Yeah.
wonderful trip. How many days total typically does something like that cover?
So about 4 days. Yeah, about
That's
4 to
packed
5
pretty
days.
full.
Yeah. So we leave like on a Wednesday at around 11 and we'll be back Sunday late afternoon. So this year it'll be, I think, April 4th or 3rd through the 7th. So we're really looking forward. Our students are really looking forward to this trip. We cover everything. Puente received additional funds from the statewide office to take these students on these tours. And so we cover the bus ride, hotels, and per diems for food. And so I think it's not just a good opportunity for students to visit schools that maybe otherwise they wouldn't have the opportunity to visit, but it's also a way for them to bond and to form that community. What I found last year, and I think you saw it too, Christian, was that after the trip, our students became very close. They're still very close, the ones from last year. So I'm hoping that'll happen this year.
When you're part of a community or cohort, those bonds remain forever. And I'll just give a perfect example. My one cohort experience was my doctoral program at UCLA. And last night, I actually appeared as a guest lecturer for one of my former classmates in the class she was teaching. And that was, what is this, 2024, 13 years later. We're talking, collaborating, and a lot of those things are happening. Also want to share, and I'm going to give away something here. Maybe you didn't know this, but once upon a time at Los Angeles Valley College, I was a dean, and one of my assignments was liaison for the Puente program. And the trip that you mentioned was kind of the highlight. And I don't know if you've had anything like this happen, but there was kind of with the students that were completing, there was kind of this friendly banter going of whether UC Berkeley was better than UC Davis. And I mean, there's this ceremony at dinner, speeches going on. You could hear the students, I like Davis, I like Berkeley. Any kind of funny things that generated from the trip?
I don't know if funny, but
Or interesting?
interesting. I think what I saw was that students that had never crossed a word in class, even though we had put them in groups together, all of a sudden you see them sitting on the buses and really contemplating like, wow, I can really come here. And I like this school. I think I can transfer. And I think that's what got a lot of students really thinking about not just transferring, but maybe going outside of their comfort zone. For a lot of our students, they had never left the Bay Area. This was their first time. And so I got a lot of them thinking like, maybe I can go to UC San Diego. Maybe it is a possibility. It's not that far away. So I think for a lot of students, it just kind of really solidified that that's a possibility that can come to fruition.
One of the other things I've noted providing leadership for Puente now at my third college is that students aren't by themselves, just with college employees, that family members are often there. Can you speak to that piece of it?
So that is part of the Puente philosophy is to embrace la familia. Because for a lot of our students, family is the most important thing. For a lot of our students, this is why a lot of them will drop out to help family if the family requires it, right? And so one of the things that we're encouraged to do is to bring the family in as part of the student's journey so that they can understand what it is that they're really doing. I mean, I've been on the phone with parents, letting them know, yeah, your daughter was with me until 5 o'clock. We were doing a student educational plan, or, this is what your son wants to do. I think this is my professional opinion. So it's really connecting with those family members, with the parents, even grandparents for a lot of our students, and really kind of just opening their eyes to what the college journey is really about and the importance of it, that it's not just for the student when they get an education, but it's to empower and educate the whole family. And I think it's that piece that becomes really important for a lot of our students, is to expose, to bring the family.
If I'm a parent listening to this, what would you say is the most important type of support you could give a student
Most important
or a family member?
for family is to really allow the student to explore and not to close doors on the student, not to say you have to major in engineering because that's what you have to do, or you have to pick a career that's like a certificate because you need to get out and work. It's to really work with either the family member, the student, and let them explore and let them figure out what is their true passion and what do they want to do in life.
Kind of letting students find out their own why, but also their own definition of what the experience is. And much like Christian a few minutes ago talked to me about the 5-paragraph essay a little bit, and kind of provided a new context. Okay. Well, Christian, you've been actively involved in the Puente program. We so appreciate it. As the president, I want to say thank you for that investment and engagement on your part. Where do you see the program going, and what do you think is necessary in your view for it to be successful as someone who's in the classroom?
Yeah, so something actually me and Laura always talk about this, right? One, I feel like more staffing type of vibe. Because right now it's been like honestly, it's just been Laura, because I'm not here full time. But this year we're envisioning I do more outreach and actually go to the high schools to start doing more intentional outreach. To get, I guess, more students, and I don't know, just to get a vibe of the type of students we'll bring.
What experience has that been like, taking the story of Puente to high schools? What's that been like?
We haven't yet. So that's the plan for this year. Yeah, that's the plan for this year. I feel like now we're just kind of like trying to get the team solidified. And that's the idea for me, right? To go to the high schools and bring maybe a student worker
Fantastic.
with us to talk about their experience.
Just a quick question. I just want to know, what does Puente mean? What does it encompass? What does it mean?
Answer.
I mean, yeah, for me it means community. I don't know, just been I've felt like more community here than in my own, for example, my own PhD program. I found a sense of belonging here than my it is the I don't know, just community, I guess that would
Wow.
be.
Just a closing question to Laura. How about you? What do you see as the future of Puente?
I see this program as thriving, and I really want it to become part of institutional plan. And I want to see it as a program that stays regardless if I'm in the position or not, or for generations to come, that the institution is committed to continuing the program.
Well, all I can say is just the experience of the last 2 years and the way we've opened up our college and our doors. One thing that has been really kind of the welcome piece as students come in has been great programs and great learning communities like Puente. And I look forward to continuing the support. Want to extend also my thanks to both of you for your service to our students, and also for making some time today to join me here at the President's Desk.
Yeah.
All right.
Thank you.
And just very quickly, Laura, if students are interested in Puente, how do they contact you?
They can go on the Laney Puente page and they can find my information and also Cristian's information and our student worker, Stephanie Cervantes. They can email us to find out more, or they can set up an appointment.
An email address is?
laneypuente@peralta.edu.
Outstanding. Thank you so much. Listeners and viewers, as we wrap up another edition of the President's Desk, we want to thank our Peralta TV audience, as well as listeners up and down the great state of California, starting from as far north in the 717 and the 530, all the way down to SoCal and the 619. Big shout out. But special appreciation to our great Laney and Peralta listeners right here in the 510, tuning in from Lake Merritt, Oakland, Chinatown, downtown Oakland, West Oakland, East Lake, Fruitvale, Diamond, North Oakland, Adams Point, Central Oakland, East Oakland, the Oakland Hills, Montclair, Piedmont, and of course, those right here at the Laney campus listening to us today. As we close up shop at the president's desk, straighten out the desk chairs and turn the light off on today's program, Felicia, great job today. Take us home.
Absolutely. I'd like to give a shout out to the Puente program at Laney College. I also would like to wish a good luck in his dissertation, Dr. Christian Gonzalez Reyes. Thank you for tuning in to the President's Desk, hosted by Laney College President Dr. Rudy Besikoff. It airs each Wednesday at 2 a.m. and 2 p.m. on 96.9 KGPC. And viewers can watch the show in its entirety on Peralta TV Sundays from 1 to 2 p.m. To listen anytime, find us on kgpc969.org/current programming /current shows and click on the President's Desk, or find the show directly at www.kgpc969.org/the President's Desk. Also, to stream video of the show, go to youtube.com and subscribe to Laney College President's Desk. If you have a suggestion for a future show, please email us at laneypresdesk@peralta.edu.